channel vlogs, 31 Days of Horror, continuing with day 6 and Dracula Untold. Dracula Untold. Very exciting to actually have a physical copy of something. I think it's a long-standing tradition with the 31 Days of Horror to actually work through the horror movies that you've purchased but not yet watched, and that is exactly what Dracula Untold is for me, because I bought it, I don't know, sometime this year when it was hopefully on good sale. I don't remember. But yeah, I picked it for the 31 Days of Horror because it was a newer movie. It was a movie that I really wanted to see. Of course, it's a Dracula movie. That totally suits 31 Days of Horror. So there you go. I think I might have room to put it there. Hopefully nothing falls. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so as I said, my reason to watch this was that I own it, but I haven't watched it, and I also really wanted to see it. I wanted to see it in the theater. Didn't have the chance to do that, so here I can watch it now. Yay! I think it came out last year around this time, so it's not that long. Not that long. The synopsis, if you're not familiar with what it's about, Dracula Untold, should probably sort of give you an idea that it's a sort of untold story of Dracula. So this is a origin story, and it takes a bit of a different take on this than I've seen in other ones in terms of it goes by Vlad the Impaler. That's not a huge leap, but putting Vlad the Impaler as a child soldier and then growing into a warrior and then, later being tempted with vampirism. So I actually don't know if there's another one that's exactly like this, but I think the child soldier thing is the thing that makes it a bit different. So I'm not going to say more than that because I actually really enjoyed how the story unfolded, and I'm very familiar with Dracula from a film perspective and a TV perspective. I've seen many, 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 many renditions of it. I still have to read it. I've tried a few times and it's like, but anyway, that's a whole other story. On to my other questions. Was it horror? I think anything that's Dracula is by default horror. There is a lot of, vampire action type stuff, but the feeling it has is more of an epic historical fantasy action movie. It's definitely very epic. It's very beautiful. There is fighting, so that always makes it action, but there is also a lot of sort of, you know, um, creative interpretations of things that make it feel more fantasy, and special effects that sometimes don't make it feel less actiony. But this one definitely had a fair amount of action, but it also had sort of fantasy elements that made it sort of like a different kind of action. So I think it sort of straddles a lot of different genres, but and it even because it has romantic elements, which I wasn't really anticipating, that actually makes it more of a gothic movie, because if you put romance and horror together, you create gothic. So, I don't know. I think it appeals to a broader audience than only horror fans because of these other elements and this epic nature and the sort of, historical action, romance thing, but I wouldn't say it's purely a horror movie, but it definitely has horrific things. And then the next question is, was it scary? And then, like, for myself, I wouldn't say I was not scared while watching it. There are definitely some things that might make younger audiences scared, especially because there is an element that is specifically about children, so that definitely if you're a kid watching it, that might be pretty scary. There's definitely sort of menacing things and that kind of stuff, but for me it was more of a sweeping, fantasy epic kind of feel to it of the journey. And it does have emotional elements which does resonate with like the horror thing, because horror makes you feel something, but it makes you feel scared, tension, those kinds of things. So I thought this made you feel, but not always, the tension type of stuff. So there you go. And did I enjoy it? And I would say, hell yeah, I enjoyed it. It is easily my favorite of the 31 Days of Horror so far. I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed Luke Evans. He's a great actor. And we also get Charles Dance in this, and oh yeah, just I was so have a soft spot in my heart for Charles Dance, and I did not know he was in this. We also have Dominic Cooper. Is it Dominic Cooper? Sometimes I get the Dominics mixed up. Yeah, and Sarah Gadon, I don't know what I know her from. I think I know her from TV stuff. So I definitely recognized her, but I'm not sure what it was from. So yeah, I thought the acting was good, and I really liked the actors, which always helps. And I recognize that that's not always the same thing, but both Luke Evans and Charles Dance were amazing, and Dominic Cooper was good. He was good. It wasn't the most three dimensional character, but I still thought he did a good job in the role that he had. So yeah, I really enjoyed this beautifully styled, just gorgeous, epic, romantic. You know, his interpretation of Dracula, which is much more of a sort of stand-up guy. Haven't really seen that much, and it's most I would say it was most similar to the Bram Stoker Dracula because it's so highly stylized. But I liked this version of Dracula better. He kind of reminded me a little bit of the Bram Stoker Dracula before he becomes a vampire. And that's so in that way they feel kind of connected in that way. But yeah, there was something really really wonderful about his character that just sort of took it to a different level. So that really made it work for me. And I did do another drawing for this one. And there we have Dracula. And also got some other little drawings there. I love this one, even though to me it did not turn out how I expected, and it kind of looks like, because it's really round, it looks like an astronaut helmet, and that was not what I was going for. You just keep working on stuff and you never know where it's gonna go. So if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. I ended up giving it a 9 out of 10, even though there are some technical things, especially the pacing and the editing, that they're a little, not totally, they felt a little strange. Like people just getting from one place to another much more quickly than it took them to get from somewhere else. Those kinds of things, like all of a sudden someone being somewhere and it's like, how did you get there? And so there's kind of that kind of stuff. But I'm not gonna get too worried on stuff like this, especially when it's an action movie. Sometimes the pace gets a little off kilter anyway. And it was quite short. It was only sort of like an hour 25 to the credits, which I don't mind. It didn't feel short to me while I was watching it. I enjoyed it immensely, and I would definitely rewatch it. So as I said, it's my favorite so far, and I wonder if anything will dethrone Dracula Untold. That's it, on its throne. Now, I do have a couple of things for the spoiler zone, and they very much are spoiler zone. They go right to the end of the movie, so if you haven't watched it, I'd say check it out. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. So, spoilers up in 3, 2, 1. I absolutely loved the epilogue. I wasn't anticipating it at all, and I adored it. I just just to see, current day, especially because it really looked like Toronto. I don't know if it was Toronto, but it really felt like Toronto. And why do we feel that? Why do we feel like we enjoy something more if it's in our hometown? I just don't know. I guess you feel more connected to something. Anyway, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. But I gotta say, I didn't quite understand. Wow, what did I didn't get how everything seemed. Oh yeah. So but one weird thing about it was that everyone, in terms of the lore of the vampires, or knowing that vampires exist and all that kind of stuff, it seemed like the entire village or whatever seemed to know that. However, Vlad didn't. Like, he was like, who is this person that comes from the mountain, and how is there someone in the mountain, and that vampires exist, and all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, he's a vampire evil, like, save us, sunlight and the church and stuff. And it's like, wait, what? How do you guys all know about that? It's like, how did that happen? Although I appreciated that it created such a great conflict of, he's trying to save his people, and now his people are like totally like not accepting him for the choices that he's made. Oh, the torment, the torment. So all of that stuff I actually thought was really quite interesting, and it made his character quite vulnerable on several levels, which was an unusual take. Although there's always a vulnerability with vampires with the whole sunlight thing, depending on how if they take that, if they do that. But yeah, so that was weird. But love the ending, love the epilogue. Favorite so far. I can't wait to watch it again. So there you go. That's the spoiler zone, and all I have to say about Dracula Untold. Actually, I probably could talk more. Me and Marina will probably talk about one. Oh, some point on Before the Dawn, so watch for that. At some point. All right, thanks for watching.